All right, quick one. What if I told you the biggest cyber threat to your business is not some hacker in a hoodie? It is your office printer. That friendly box in the corner that you barely think about. It could be quietly storing every contract and payslip you have printed this year on a hard drive nobody ever wipes. With a password, an attacker can guess in about 3 tries. Still think it is just the printer? In this episode, we are going to pull that apart. Printers, CCTV, smart thermostats, all the kit you have forgotten are even computers.
He's the guy with the plan for your online life. Keeps your data safe, cuts through the strife. Small biz owners, yeah, this is your guide. Cyber threats, beware, no place to hide. The Small Business Cybersecurity Guide, guarding your world with a sharp eagle eye. Tips and tricks to keep your systems tight. Stay secure, stay strong in the digital fight.
Right, hello and welcome to the Small Business Cybersecurity Guide podcast. This is episode 30. I am Noel Bradford, and I am here with Morven McLeod and Graham Faulkner. Right, Morven, Graham, 30 episodes.
30 episodes, blimey. When we kicked this off back in June, I was not completely convinced we would make it to 10, never mind 30.
Yet here we are. At time of recording, we have peaked at around 3,500 daily downloads and climbed into the heady top 12 in the Apple management charts worldwide.
Top 12 globally. A little UK show about small business cybersecurity sitting next to Harvard Business Review and slick American productivity stuff. I still cannot get my head around that.
We have rattled through passwords, multi-factor, ransomware, supply chain attacks, shadow IT, social engineering, and that little electoral commission debacle, where they ignored every basic security principle in the book, and even looked at what it takes to protect a head of state.
We looked at Jaguar Land Rover, Marks & Spencer and the Co-op breaches.
We have thoroughly terrified business owners about deepfakes, actually explained why Cyber Essentials matters instead of treating it as a box-ticking exercise, and convinced a few people that the biggest security risk in the building is the person who makes the really good tea.
And apparently, we have made cybersecurity almost entertaining in the process, which is quite the achievement in itself.
Almost is doing a lot of heavy lifting there. I don't see the National Television Awards calling us for light entertainment anytime soon.
No, but we have been honest. And speaking of being honest, there is something we have dodged for the first 29 episodes.
Because we knew it would make people uncomfortable, possibly angry, definitely worried.
Perfect. Nothing says celebration episode quite like a bit of existential dread.
Do you remember episode 17, when we talked about social engineering and how attackers target human vulnerabilities in your organisation?
The one where we said even brilliant staff cannot completely protect you from really well-crafted psychological manipulation.
That one. Now imagine that instead of going to all that effort, the attacker can just log into some forgotten device on your network with admin as the password and help themselves to everything. No social engineering, no deepfake voice calls, no clever pretext, just default credentials on things you have forgotten are even computers.
We are talking about those Internet of Things devices, are we? Printers, CCTV, smart thermostats.
We are indeed. And before anyone listening thinks we must have covered this somewhere already, we have not. We have mentioned these devices in passing, but we have not dedicated an episode to the very awkward fact that while you have been securing laptops and servers, your office printer has full network access, stores every document you print, and is still using the password it's shipped with.
Good. Episode 30. The one where we ruin Christmas for every business owner who thought they were finally on top of things.
Episode 30 is the one where we talk about the devices nobody thinks about, but everyone should be worried about.
And we are going to start with a story that still makes us all cringe.
This is a real case study from our emails in the last week or so. A marketing agency with 30 people. You know, a mature business. They've been listening to us. They actually mentioned the podcast later, which was flattering and horrible at the same time. They listened to our ransomware and authentication episodes, then spent about 15 grand on security. New firewalls, proper endpoint protection, and hardware keys, which made Mark Bell very happy, for every single member of staff. They even had a security audit done. It all came back clean. They were feeling quite pleased with themselves, quite rightly.
I can feel the butt approaching like a freight train with no brakes.
They'd also bought a fancy new multifunction printer. Full colour, scans to email, still does fax for some reason, probably makes coffee and files your accounts if you ask nicely. Sales bloke came in, plugged it into the network, did the demo, showed them all the bells and whistles. Everyone loved it.
And the admin password was?
Never changed, ever. A month or so later, they discover someone has quietly been pulling every single document that passed through that printer. Contracts, proposals, pricing, financials, HR docs, salary info, you name it.
Please tell me you're making this up.
I'm not. The default admin password was printed in the setup manual and sat in a PDF on the manufacturer's website. The printer had full access to the network because nobody thought to segment it. It had a built-in email function that nobody realised was there. An attacker logged into the web interface from somewhere else in the world, probably in their pyjamas, and helped themselves to months of confidential data.
After they had spent £15,000 on security.
After all that investment, that £2,000 printer completely undermined everything. And before you say you would never make that mistake, ask yourself something right now. Do you know what the admin password is on your office printer? Can you tell me whether your CCTV system is properly password protected? Do you have any idea what your smart thermostat is doing on the network?
I can hear the awkward silence from here.
In the research I did for this episode, only about 8% of UK businesses had any specific security measures for these devices. 8%. 92% are just hoping for the best.
Welcome to episode 30. Your office equipment could already be compromised, and you probably wouldn't know.
So we've just scared everyone with printers. Why haven't we talked about this properly before now?
Partly because we needed to build the basics. There is no point in talking about printer security if people don't understand authentication, network segmentation, and patching. But also because this topic forces business owners to accept something very uncomfortable.
Which is?
That the things nobody thinks about are often the most dangerous. For 30 episodes, we have been teaching enterprise-grade thinking, verify everything, trust nothing, defence in depth, assume breach and work backwards. Meanwhile, there is a printer in the corner with admin as the password that has kept every document for 3 years.
And nobody has given it a single thought since it arrived.
When you put it like that, it does sound completely mad that we just plug these things in and move on.
The 2025 Cybersecurity Breaches Survey backs this up. Around 72% of businesses say cybersecurity is a high priority. Sounds positive. Yet, only 19% had assessed the security of internet-connected devices in the past 12 months. 72% say it matters, 19% actually do anything.
That's a pretty large gap between words and action.
But why is the gap so big? What's going on inside the organisation?
These devices fall into what I call the organisational cracks. Dave in IT looks after laptops and servers. The facilities manager buys the smart thermostat because the heating system needs an upgrade. The office manager orders the printer because the old one jammed. A security contractor installs the CCTV because someone on the board wanted cameras. Nobody is actually responsible for any of it from a cybersecurity point of view.
In my notes, I call this the appliance fallacy. People treat these things as gadgets like kettles or coffee machines, not as computers. You don't patch your kettle. You do not set a strong password on your toaster. So, in people's heads, why would you do that on a printer?
Except the kettle doesn't store client contracts and email them to strangers.
Exactly. So let's be clear. When we say Internet of Things in a business, what are we actually talking about?
Most people picture smart fridges or home assistants listening in. The reality in small businesses is more boring and much more worrying. In my research, the average small business network had about 17 internet-connected devices beyond the usual computers.
17 extra computers people do not think of as computers.
Exactly. Multifunction printers and copiers are the most common and the most dangerous. IP-based CCTV and network video recorders, electronic door control systems, smart thermostats and building controls, voice over IP desk phones, wireless access points, network storage boxes holding backups, smart displays in reception. Even smart lighting and occupancy sensors are used in some places.
So all the stuff that quietly got upgraded to internet connected over the past decade, without anyone really thinking about security.
Yes. 10 years ago, your printer had a USB cable. Your CCTV was genuinely closed circuit. Your thermostat was a dial on a wall. Now everything has an IP address and a cloud portal, and people treated that shift as a convenience upgrade instead of a security transformation.
Fine, but what is really at stake here? These things just print, show camera feeds, or control temperature. How bad can it be?
3 big problems apply to nearly all of them. First, they are real computers. Full operating systems, storage, and proper networking.
A modern office printer has many magnitudes more computing power than the kit that put people on the moon.
Second, the default security from the factory is usually terrible.
The default passwords are listed in manuals. The manuals are almost always available from the manufacturer's support portal without any registration. Unnecessary services enabled. No encryption turned on. Remote access is left open by default.
And third, nobody ever updates them. Graham, when did you last apply a security patch to your own printer?
I hadn't until I started researching this, which rather proves the point.
I didn't even know printers had security updates, if I am honest.
Oh, they do. One big vendor released over 30 security patches for printer software in a single year. When you look at how many small firms actually applied those patches, the answer is essentially none. Nobody treats printers as things that need patching.
So what can actually go wrong if you ignore all this?
Document theft is the obvious one. Every document you print, scan, or copy is usually stored on that device, sometimes for years, usually unencrypted.
Then you have network infiltration. Those devices often sit on the same network as your important systems. Attackers use them as pivot points into servers and line of business apps.
Then, data exfiltration. The gear can be configured to email copies of all documents quietly as part of normal operations.
Ransomware too. These are computers. They can be encrypted and used to spread malware. There are even attacks where the entire device firmware is replaced, so the malicious code survives resets and factory wipes.
So that little printer in the corner could end up being a £50,000 problem.
More like 500,000 when you factor in fines, legal, lost business and reputation. In that same survey, internet-connected devices were the first foothold in about 23% of successful network breaches. Nearly a quarter.
And only 8% of organisations have any targeted controls on those devices. That ratio is not comforting.
In interviews, I heard the same line again and again. That is not my responsibility.
So we now have powerful computers on our networks that nobody really owns, nobody patches, and nobody even thinks about until something explodes.
And those attacks are mostly automated. When researchers scanned UK business addresses, they found tens of thousands of internet-accessible printers using default credentials, thousands of exposed camera systems, and thousands of door control systems. Nobody is being singled out. If you are connected and misconfigured, you are a target.
Right, let's dive into printers properly, because they are everywhere, and they are probably the worst offenders.
I would admit it. Until we prepped this, printers in my head were noisy mechanical things that chew paper and complain about low toner, not threats.
That mental model is exactly why they are such good attack points. Modern multifunction printers are full networked computers. They run embedded versions of Windows or Linux. They have hard drives, memory, network cards, web servers, email clients, and cloud connectors.
In many offices, they are more capable than the average home computer, yet we treat them like they are dumb boxes that spit paper.
When you list it all like that, it really does sound ridiculous that we just plug them in and forget them.
Here's the bit that should make you wince. A typical office printer knows an awful lot about your company. Every document printed, scanned, copied or faxed, credentials for network shares and email, network layout, address books for scan to mail. In some setups, user authentication data for secure print release.
So everything an attacker needs for a full compromise on one box by the window.
Pretty much. Then add disposal. When firms replace printers, they almost never wipe the internal storage correctly. It is simply not in the process.
Researchers have bought used printers online and recovered medical records, financials, legal files, even police investigations. All off the internal drive. No encryption, no wiping.
You can almost feel the GDPR breach just listening to that.
Under the law, if personal data is sitting on that drive and you do not secure or erase it, that is a clear failure of security. The regulator could come knocking. Yet we very rarely see printer stories in enforcement notices. It is a blind spot.
So walk me through a basic printer attack. How does it work in practice?
Okay, so the simple version. The attacker scans for exposed printer interfaces, finds yours, tries a handful of common passwords, admin, password, model number. In most cases, one of those works. They are in.
From there, they can download stored documents, use the printer as a foothold to map your network, or change settings so it sends copies of future jobs out to them on a schedule.
Then there is the firmware route. They upload a malicious software image to the printer. It behaves perfectly, prints fine, scans fine, but silently forwards everything.
And because the printer traffic is usually trusted by your other security tools, it glides through unnoticed.
That one is nasty, because you would never suspect the printer.
Exactly. And yes, they can encrypt the device and demand a ransom. Picture the message on the tiny control panel.
Businesses pay for it too, because they have no backup of the printer configuration and do not want the downtime.
Right, enough terror. What can people actually do about printers?
Basics first, and these cost nothing. Change every default password. All of them. Admin accounts on the web interface, service accounts, and any remote management. If you don't know what the current password is, assume it is still the default and fix it.
Turn on encryption for stored data if the device supports it. Most business-grade printers do. Turn off features you do not use. If you never fax, disable fax. If nobody uses scan to email, kill it. Every disabled feature is one less place to hide.
What about the network side? Should printers sit on the main business network?
Ideally, no. This is where proper segmentation comes in. Put printers on their own virtual network. They need just enough access to receive jobs from users and nothing more.
That sounds like the sort of thing that makes people worry about cost and complexity.
If you already have managed switches, it is mostly configuration work. You might need to pay for half a day of a decent network engineer. That cost is trivial compared to a breach.
In my data, the average internet-connected device breach cost small firms around £8,400 before you even count knock-on effects. Half a day of network work suddenly looks like a bargain.
And those firmware updates, how often?
Treat them like operating system updates, at least quarterly, monthly if you can. Put it in the same rhythm as Patch Tuesday. Someone owns it. Someone checks the vendor site, checks your print servers, and does the updates.
Secure print release is worth mentioning too.
That is where nothing prints till you stand at the device and authenticate, right?
Exactly. Jobs sit in a queue, you tap a card or enter a code at the printer, and only then does it spit out pages. It cuts waste, keeps confidential stuff out of the general tray, and gives you audit logs.
On disposal, you have two options. Use the vendor's secure wipe tools, or, if the device is truly end of life, remove the drive and introduce it to a hammer.
You do love that line.
It works, it's cheap, it's very satisfying.
So, if you're buying a new printer, look for encrypted storage as standard, secure boot, firmware checks, automatic security updates, good logging, and integration with your identity platform.
Which usually means business-grade kit at business-grade prices.
Yes, you might spend a bit more up front, but you are paying for features that can prevent an expensive incident.
Moving on to CCTV and access control, because there is something very darkly funny about your security system being the way someone gets in.
The irony is thick enough to spread. Firms spend thousands on cameras to protect against theft, then leave them with default passwords and open internet access. That gives attackers free live surveillance and a nice network foothold.
You're going to mention the public camera sites, are you?
Of course. There are sites out there that do nothing but show live feeds from unsecured cameras. Tens of thousands of them, a depressing number from UK businesses.
So that's privacy breaches, data protection issues, and handy recon for criminals, all in one go.
Many of those feeds show identifiable people. That brings data protection law straight into play. The regulator could, in theory, issue very serious fines for that.
And the video kit itself isn't dumb. Network video recorders are full computers with storage and processing. Once they are compromised, they can be used to scan and attack the rest of your network.
Walk me through a simple path from camera to serious incident.
An attacker finds your recorder exposed online with factory credentials, logs in. From there, they can see your internal network, so they scan for shares, servers, databases, anything interesting. The recorder becomes the first foothold.
And because the installer put everything on the same network, nothing stops that lateral movement.
To make matters worse, this software often has serious security bugs. Remote code execution, login bypass, hard-coded backdoors.
And I bet updates are very popular.
Almost nobody updates these systems. They were installed, they show pictures, that's the end of the mental story for most people.
On the installation side, the quality is all over the place. Some contractors do change passwords and secure things. Many just get the pictures working and leave.
Several installers I spoke to admitted they rarely change default passwords unless the client insists.
That's bleak. So what's the minimum here?
Again, change every default password on the recorder and on cameras that have their own logins. Disable direct internet access unless there is a very good reason. If you genuinely need to see feeds from outside, do it through a proper VPN, not by exposing the recorder itself.
Put cameras and recorders on a separate network segment. They need to talk to the viewing station and management system, nothing else. Turn on encryption for stored footage if the system supports it. Apply firmware updates on a regular schedule. And audit configurations every so often to be sure nothing has been opened up without approval.
Now access control. Door systems feel even more serious in some ways, because now we're into physical security too.
Yes, these systems know who came in, who left, which door they used and when. They control physical entry.
If someone compromises that, they can unlock doors from afar, grant themselves badges, wipe logs, or simply watch patterns so they know when the place is empty.
That really bridges the gap between digital and physical threat.
The worrying bit is that many of these systems are even more dated and fragile than CCTV. Old proprietary software, weak communication protocols, almost no proper patching.
And once again, they usually sit outside IT governance. They're seen as facilities kit, not information systems.
We've seen public research showing remote unlocking on some of these platforms, right?
Yes, some even send credentials in plain text. Some use master codes that can't be changed. Some have flaws in the web management tools. None of it is pretty.
And the minimum standard looks very familiar. Isolate the network, remove all default credentials, and audit who has access at least monthly. Remove levers quickly. Turn on logging. Use the strongest authentication it supports, and have a manual backup plan if the system fails.
If you already have a system and suspect it is a bit of a mess, get an independent security audit. Not from the original installer, from someone who understands both physical and cyber risk.
Let's talk briefly about smart building systems and all the other bits that quietly appear on networks. Thermostats, lighting, building controls.
I can already hear someone in the comments revving up to say, it is just a thermostat. It only does the heating.
That thermostat is still a computer with an address on your network. Often, it talks to a cloud service. Security is usually an afterthought.
Lest we forget about the Las Vegas casino with a huge aquarium in the lobby. The bad actors attacked the smart controller, you know the one, keeping the water at the right temperature for the fish, and used it as the way in. Then moved sideways and pulled the high roller database out.
So yes, someone really did hack a casino through a fish tank thermostat.
It's a perfect example. Nobody in the business thought of that controller as an IT asset. It sat in a grey area between facilities and a specialist contractor. That is where attackers live.
But a full network audit should have flagged the device, as it will be visible in some way, shape or form. So listener, can you look yourself in the eye and say you know everything on your network and exactly what it does, when it was last updated and what the passwords are? I can almost guarantee you can't.
What about voice over IP phones? They are everywhere now.
Same pattern. Little embedded computers on your main network, often with web management and default passwords. Almost never in scope for security reviews.
And some of them can be turned into listening devices if you compromise them. They can then be configured to auto-answer silently with remote microphone control. The stuff spy films promise, except now it comes from an office phone vendor.
That's just charming.
The important thing is not to memorise every device type. The principle is simple. If it has an IP address or talks to the internet, treat it as a computer that needs securing.
We boil this down to 4 questions for every device. Does it really need internet access? Is it on a separate network from your important systems? Have all default credentials been changed and unneeded functions turned off? And who exactly owns security for it?
If the honest answer to that last one is nobody, you have found your risk.
What surprised you most in your research, Graham?
Oh, that's easy. How simple most attacks are. In one large survey, about 84% of these devices were still using factory credentials. People imagine advanced nation-state level magic. In reality, attackers are logging in with admin and password, and it works most of the time.
And that is entirely preventable with basic controls that cost almost nothing.
So here we are, 30 episodes in, and we found another massive gap most people are ignoring.
Which is exactly why we keep saying security is not a destination. You don't tick a list and retire. It is a continuous process. These devices show that clearly. We have spent 29 episodes talking about passwords, multi-factor, patching, backups, social engineering, supply chain risk.
Then a 500 quid printer in the corner quietly undoes all of it because nobody changed the default password.
Where does this fit into the wider framework we've been building across the series?
This is part of managing your attack surface. You can't protect what you don't even know exists. So the first task is boring and vital. Inventory. What is actually on your network?
Not just the obvious laptops and servers, everything. In my work with small firms, when we run a proper scan, they are shocked. They think they have 5 or 6 connected things. The reality is more like 15 or 20.
Once you know what's there, you apply the same principles. Strong authentication, least privilege, segmentation, patching, monitoring. As a brief but related aside, in prep for this episode, I did a full network scan of my home network and found a few outlier IP addresses that turned out to be some IoT stuff. So that got moved to my IoT network. And given that there are some 50 or so devices on there, remember each individual smart anything, light bulb, doorbell, doorbell chime, smart socket, light switch, etc., is a device, they soon mount up.
That sounds a bit overwhelming for someone already juggling everything else.
It's a lot less overwhelming than cleaning up after a breach. The average incident involving one of these devices costs 8,000 plus in direct costs and about 17 days of disruption. That's 2.5 weeks of grief.
You also don't have to fix everything in one night. Start with printers. They touch the most sensitive data.
Then move on to cameras and doors because they cross the physical digital line. Then tackle the rest based on risk.
Give me the bare minimum controls everyone listening should put in place as soon as possible.
3 things. Change every default password on every internet-connected device you own. Put them on separate network segments so they cannot reach your crown jewels directly. And schedule firmware and software updates as a regular job, not as a one-day big bang.
Put it in the calendar. Assign a person. Treat it like any other maintenance.
Those basic steps can reduce the risk of these devices being used in a breach by a huge margin. Some studies put it north of 90%.
And if someone is listening and feels totally lost, doesn't even know where the printer settings page is,
Start very small. Pick one printer. Find its address on a test page. Type that into a browser. See if you can log in with something obvious. If you can, change it. That single action makes you a much harder target than the office down the road.
Then build out from there over the coming weeks.
and for people who want to do this properly, rather than bolt a few quick fixes on,
Then talk to someone who actually understands this stuff. That might be your existing IT provider, or it might need a specialist. The key is that they see these devices as in scope, not as a distraction.
They can help with proper segmentation, monitoring, and ownership so you don't drift back into chaos 6 months later.
looking back over the whole series, this feels like a nice reality check.
It's a reminder that security is an interconnected system, not just a set of gadgets. You can't secure laptops and ignore printers. You can't roll out flawless multi-factor while your camera recorder still uses password 123. It all has to work together.
Everything is connected, so everything needs at least some thought.
Right, as we hit the 30 episode mark, any final thoughts for listeners?
First, a big thank you to everyone who has been listening, sharing, and actually doing the work. The chart positions and download numbers are nice. What matters more is when someone emails to say they have finally sorted Cyber Essentials, or retired Dave from IT as the only point of failure.
And we aren't done. Next week we have another regular episode, and then on the 22nd of December we have our Christmas special, which will be episode 32.
Between now and then, do one practical thing. Check your printers. Please.
That wraps episode 30. 30 episodes of trying to make cybersecurity understandable for small businesses without drowning you in enterprise buzzwords.
If you have had real value from the show, please leave a review and tell us what you have actually changed in your business. That helps other owners find us and helps us see what is landing.
Share this specific episode with anyone who has ever said it is just a printer. They need this in their life.
You can visit the website at thesmallbusinesscybersecurityguy.co.uk for detailed guides on everything we have talked about. There are step-by-step walkthroughs for printers, cameras, network segmentation, and all the other fun.
If you need direct help with internet-connected device security, Cyber Essentials, or any of the topics we've covered, drop us a line at hello@thesmallbusinesscybersecurityguy.co.uk.
We'll be back next week, and then with the Christmas special on the 22nd. In the meantime, please check those printers.
Happy Christmas in advance, even if we have just made you stare suspiciously at your office equipment.
Thanks for sticking with us for 30 episodes. Here's to many more through 2026. Graham, do your thing, then we can get down the pub as lunch is on me.
Right, you heard the man, so before we let you go completely, let's have the quick chat about the boring but necessary legal bits. Don't worry, I'll make this as painless as possible. Look, everything we've talked about today is for general guidance. It's meant to point you in the right direction, but it absolutely shouldn't be treated as professional advice tailored specifically to your business. Your situation is unique. What worked brilliantly for a Birmingham bakery might be completely useless for a Manchester marketing agency. We do our very best to keep everything accurate and current, but let's be honest here. The cybersecurity world moves faster than a caffeinated squirrel. Things can change between when we record and when you're listening, so always double check critical technical details with qualified professionals before you go making major changes to your systems. If we've mentioned any websites, products, or services, we're giving you information, not necessarily giving them our seal of approval. We can't be responsible for what happens on their end or if things go sideways when you use them. Some things we recommend might involve affiliate partnerships. We'll always flag those when they come up because transparency matters. Now, if you're dealing with serious cybersecurity incidents, actual data breaches, or gnarly legal compliance issues, please talk to proper professionals rather than just relying on podcast advice. We're here to educate and help you understand the landscape, not to replace your security consultant, solicitor, or IT team. Finally, and this is important, whilst we genuinely want to help you improve your security, we can't accept liability for any losses or problems that might happen from following our suggestions. Think of us as your knowledgeable mates down the pub who work in cybersecurity, not your official contracted consultants. We care about your business, but we're not your insurance policy. Stay safe out there, keep learning, and remember, when in doubt, get a second opinion from someone who can see your specific situation. Cheers! This has been a Small Business Cybersecurity Guy production. Copyright 2025, all rights reserved.
Click subscribe and join the ride. Together we'll shield the digital tide. Your business is strong when your data's secure. The Small Biz Cyber Guy, here to ensure. We're signing off. Stay cyber safe no matter the cost. The Small Biz Cyber Guy says goodbye.